Neurotransmitters are endogenous chemicals that transmit signals from a neuron to a target cell across a synapse. Are packaged into synaptic vesicles clustered the membrane in the axon terminal on the presynaptic side of a synapse. Many neurotransmitters are synthesized from plentiful and simple precursors, such as amino acids, which are readily available from the diet and which require only a small number of biosynthetic steps to convert. Type of neurotransmitters: amino acids: glutamate, aspartate, glycerine, Y-aminobutyric acid, glycine. Monoamines are other biogenic amines like dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, histamine, serotonin. Peptides like somatostatin, substance P, opiate peptides, and others like acetylcholine, adenosine, and nitric oxide.
Communication between two neurons begins when an electrical impulse called an action potential travels along the axon of a presynaptic neuron toward the axon terminal. The action potential cannot cross the synaptic space. When it reaches the axon terminal, it causes membranous sacs called vesicles to move toward the membrane of the axon terminal. The membrane of the vesicle fuses with the membrane of the axon terminal, enabling the vesicle to release its contents into the synaptic space. The molecules released from the vesicles are chemicals called neurotransmitters. They drift across the synaptic space and bind to special proteins called receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. The binding of a neurotransmitter to its receptor can trigger an action potential in the postsynaptic neuron. That electrical signal then moves toward the cell body of the postsynaptic neuron. Now that the neurotransmitter has relayed its message, it releases from the receptor into the synaptic space. Some of the neurotransmitter is degraded by enzymes in the synaptic space, and some of the neurotransmitter is carried back into the presynaptic neuron through transporter proteins. The neurotransmitter that is taken back up into the presynaptic neuron is then repackaged into vesicles that can be released the next time an action potential reaches the axon terminal. The entire process repeats each time an action potential reaches the axon terminal of the presynaptic neuron.
Neurons can communicate by neurotransmitters. There are precursors and are synthesized enzymes located in the presynaptic side of the synapse. The chemical is present in the presynaptic element. It is available in sufficient quantity in the presynaptic neuron to affect the postsynaptic neuron. There are postsynaptic receptors and the chemical is able to bind to them. A biochemical mechanism for inactivation is present. Cons: cocaine, for example, blocks the reuptake of dopamine back into the presynaptic neuron, leaving the neurotransmitter molecules in the synaptic gap longer. Physical addiction to cocaine may result from prolonged exposure to excess dopamine in the synapses. After the effects of the drug wear off, one might feel depressed because of the decreased probability of the neurotransmitter binding to a receptor. Disease may affect a specific neurotransmitter system. For example, Parkinson's disease is at least in part related to failure of dopaminergic cells in deep brain nuclei. Levodopa is a precursor of dopamine, and is the most widely used drug to treat Parkinson's disease. Parkinson is a degenerative disorder of the central nervous system. The motor symptoms of Parkinson's disease result from the death of dopamine generating cells in the substantia nigra, a region of the midbrain. The cause of these cells' death is unknown. The most obvious symptoms are movement related, include shaking, rigidity, slowness of movement, and difficulty with walking and gait. Later, thinking and behavioral problems may arise, with dementia commonly occurring in the advanced stage of the disease, whereas depression is the most common psychiatric symptom.
唔知啊，即係冇人知嘛，甚至即係。
你看美國的理論，中國的才能，等小平，美少的酷修類，因為你對這個人就是太聰明了。
Thank you for your attention. Nurse Educator.